Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding is provided by a grant from Absolute Care of Westfield, committed to returning the favor to those who spent a lifetime caring for others. Absolute Care is located at 26 Cass Street in Westfield. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And good morning. What a beautiful day we have in Chautauqua County. Sun beaming down, flowers blooming, and birds chirping. You can't go wrong. We have a great program coming up. We're going to be talking about chiropractic medicine. And we have with us Dr. Earl Freling of Ripley, who's going to be telling us what's going on in the field. He comes in, he's been here before. He comes in every 20 years. Something like that. And we'll have to make him more often. Oh, my back. Now, we're going to have a lot of other things to talk about. It's going to be a busy time, and we'll have John Hamels on, Doc, who will talk about other things. In the meantime, you look at the television, the news is a bombing. It's a bombable. We have Obama pointing out, being attacked from the Republican side, that he hasn't pulled us out of the depression that we're in. He's tried everything, but he, on the other hand, points at them and says, well, you started it, for God's sake. You're the guys who let it happen. And so the war goes on, and no question, there's no way to know at this point who's going to vote for whom, but I have a feeling probably we'll stick with the people that aren't going to kill our Medicare, at least the seniors. The Republican ticket is outspokenly in favor of doing away with Medicare. They're going to eventually give seniors a voucher and say, well, here, 85-year-old John, go shop around and find somebody who'll give you an insurance policy, and we'll give you a few hundred for it. And good luck. Medicare is one of the things that should be reformed in some ways, of course. So you shouldn't give a heart transplant to anybody at 90. But New York State does have the Cadillac of Medicare, as they tell us. And it does cover an awful lot of different things. Many which probably could be reduced or shortened out, or somehow or the other there should be some kind of advantage to working the program over. But doing away with it is absurd. It's the same as Medicaid. They're trying to do away with Medicaid too. And they're doing away with Social Security a very sneaky way. The United States Congress, in their wisdom, has set up a special way of determining what inflation is. It's called core inflation, see? And whenever the inflation is beginning to show up in their figures, they very quickly change the rules and adjust it in such a way that it doesn't show any inflation. So in the meantime, seniors were guaranteed a COLA, cost of living adjustment, and it's not happening. Seniors are getting 47 cents on a dollar from what they got, according to Forbes and all the national pundits on the subject. They are getting 47 cents on a dollar from what they got 10 years ago, and it's going down fast. We're in a 5% inflationary spiral, they'll tell us. We got 1% after they snatched up. They usually grab they give us a small amount, and then they take it back for Medicare. So seniors, you're in deep trouble. Seniors, no wonder seniors are having serious problems. They have a new game on town. It's called the reverse mortgage, where they give you half of the value of your house, and you don't have to. You can stay in your house even though you can't pay it back. But in the meantime, they snatch the house ultimately, because how are they going to pay it back when they're trying to survive and buy food? Go to the supermarket. Tomatoes, we used to throw them at each other. They were just waste. And what is it, $2, $3 a pound for tomatoes? God help us. And steak's going to go ape, they tell us, because they're slaughtering the beef stock because of the huge drought we have out west. Corn's going to do well, and the farmers up here really jump up in income who are raising corn, because they're really losing a lot of the corn crop. But we are doing fine up here, plenty of rain. Hello, Family Dollar. I want to say especially to Terry, the manager over there. They took care of our family very nicely when my wife had wandered over there, and she unfortunately can't really take care of herself anymore. And they led her back home. And this is over and above service, and I just want to thank them. The Family Dollar crowd in Westfield is really doing the job. Tremendous help for the neighborhood. Ripley, let John answer we have some news from Ripley I wanted to talk about, but we'll get to that later. In the meantime, I have a lot of great stuff here from the seniors, but I'm just going to pick a couple items because I want to get Earl on. He's going to talk about back cracking, bones. All right, now, Great Bell Seniors, quite a bunch. They had a couple of special guests recently, as all the senior groups do have people of import. And Dr. Marianne Spanos, who's the head of the Office for the Aging, comes to the senior groups if you invite her and talks all about it and tells you what's going on in terms of senior funding and the advantages you can get by going through the Office for the Aging in Chautauqua County. We had also as a guest Patricia Christina. She's the town of Pomfret councilwoman, and she's going to. She did a nice job over there. Goodwill in Mayville, the Goodwill chair Carlson announced the birthdays. Life membership and birthday: Ruth Patterson, Juanita Gehring, Nancy Cole, Alice Paulus, Pauline Wright, Victor Harris, Joyce Ayers, Mary Carlson, Frances Himline, and Sylvia Colby, among many, many others. They had I wanted to say a wedding anniversary, happy wedding anniversary, to Mr. and Mrs. James Subject. Jim is an attorney now over in Fredonia, and he was our district attorney for many years. Did quite a good job. Gene Kelsey, who does trips for Mayville, says they're going to, they have a trip set up for Pigeon Forge. It's all filled in. And there's still seats available for a trip to Vidler's and Made in USA. That's a great shop. Great time to Christmas shop because, you know, since everybody's moving to the Pacific Rim, all the industries and everything, which is one of the reasons we do have so much unemployment, or they're going down to Mexico and Latin America somewhere. And now it appears that China, of course, has taken over almost everything. And they're moving to the next fertile field, which is Guatemala, where they can get cheap labor. And that, bye-bye America. They're not going to pay $10 an hour in America when they can get it for a bowl of rice in China or just a couple of tortillas down in Latin America. Forget it. September 6th, if you want to meet the guys over at Mayville, next meeting, they meet at the VFW at the foot of the hill in Mayville, and they have quite a bunch over there. They're having a chicken barbecue September 22nd. Don't miss that. There'll be a sign-up sheet at the May 6th meeting. Hey, take somebody over to a senior group. Silver Creek, President's Carm Tampio tells us they're having a steak roast on September 19th. It's an annual job, and they love it. Steak. Now, that is terrific. No hot dogs, it's steak. They had their meeting dinner. It was sausage and corn on the cob, tomato salad, and watermelon. Oh, boy, that's better, too. They always play bingo, of course. Sheridan Happy Seniors. They went to the Hawaiian theme party, which was held at St. Columban's, and they had a great time over there. A whole bunch of seniors went over there from all the different clubs. September 24th, they're taking a trip to Albion Town Hall and lunch nearby. If you're interested, see Joanne Martin. The refreshment committee for August 31st was Pat Smith and Sue Townsend. Bob Suttle introduced the speaker, who is Bob Selinsky, and he is an attorney from the Sierra Club, and he talked about hydrofracking for natural gas. It's not just a rural landowner problem. It could affect our water supply all over the world. But at any rate, they do use some very harsh chemicals. They tell us, well, we do it carefully, and it's way, way down below the water. Well, that hasn't always been the case, so there's a lot of concern about this hydrofracking. And New York State is jumping on this one, too. We'll see what happens. It's a way of getting gas out way, way down, deep. And natural gas, we have lots of it. Lots and lots of natural gas, and we shouldn't be spending all this money on imported oil from the Arabs, but we should be using our own natural gas, our own resources. And even timber. You can heat with, we have more timber around, you can heat with it, but unfortunately, there are all kinds of nasty bugs that are getting into the timber, and they have to be kind of careful about moving it around. There are all kinds of laws now. You can't move it. You go to a campsite, make sure you've got some kind of paperwork on where you got the firewood when you bring your firewood in, because it's limited in terms of from where it could have come. I think they have a 50-mile limit on the distance you can move it, but this changes constantly, and you have to have proof. Yeah. All right, guys, enough said. Lots of things going on. I've got a public service announcement for you, and then we'll hear from Doc. This is for you.
Winston, just one more inning, Grandma.
Ever notice how many things today kids can do without actually moving? A whole lot of things their parents used to do the hard way. So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part, which makes exercise even more important for children. In fact, new research tells us the best time to enhance bone development is during childhood and adolescence. And just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Healthy bones come from healthy habits. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello. Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
A public service message on building strong bones for kids from the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America and the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
And there you go. He shoots from the hip. This is John Hamels. Doc, you're on, Doc.
Good morning, Reading. Good morning, Dr. Freling, my bone guy.
Good morning.
I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say today. Make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Reed, I want to start right off this morning with just sort of a public announcement, service announcement. There's an event coming up next Saturday in Jamestown. Now, the reason why I mention this is because a lot of times people say in Chautauqua County, there's nothing to do on a Saturday night. This is a great fundraiser in that it's supporting the Affinity Arts and Music program down in Jamestown, the Performing Arts. I'm happy to say that I'm one of the instructors for Infinity, and as well as my partner Bill. And this is where we talk about all the time where the music and arts and all that stuff is being cut out of the school budgets. Well, this is a program that supports it. Now, here's the deal. For $10, you go to one of the establishments that we're going to show you here in a second on the poster, and you get a wristband for $10. Cool poster, huh? And there you go. These are different. Whoop, I'm back again. Jeff, don't do that. I don't know where I am. But these are just some of the examples. These are the various restaurants and bars and so forth. The Reg, they are having all these different groups throughout the evening. And so if you don't like listening to Doc and Bill, you can go over and listen to Bill Ward at the wine cellar or whatever. If you don't like Cryptic Yeast, you can go see me and Bill or whatever. But there's different times and all these different places, and you just go from one place to the other. We played last year, and it was just a great time. People were wandering in and out, enjoying the music, and they stayed for a little while, and they went on to the next venue. So September 8th, all day, all evening in Jamestown to help the Infinity Group. $10 a person. Yeah, and I think it's 4 hours of music. Go anywhere you want, listen to all kinds of music. Okay, now. Do we want to talk about Ripley, or do we want me to go to my shoot from the hip stuff?
Let's talk about Ripley. I just
saw
in the paper that there's quite a bunch over the school board the other day.
Okay, well, here's the deal, and I'll be brief because I do want to cover what I want to cover. I used to be board president and then superintendent.
Right.
Okay, it boils down to this, and Earl, he's a fellow Ripleyite, or is it Ripleyite? Ripleyite, depends on who you talk to, which side of the tracks. Folks, they've tried to merge, they tried to annex, they tried to do the regional high school. Meanwhile, the numbers go down. Meanwhile, there's only so much you can do with a school of a certain size, and they're down around 350 kids, I think, total, preschool through 12th grade. And I think it's come to the time where the parents are saying, okay, the school board's done all it can do, the administration's done all that it could do, and now we need to take things into our own hands. There's been a petition going around to say, basically, we're asking the school board to tuition our children to Chautauqua Lake Central School to provide more than what can be provided at Ripley. And it's not that Ripley doesn't care. It's not that Ripley can't do it. It doesn't have the funds to do it. It doesn't have the resources to do it because it's just so small. So that's what's going on, Reed, in a nutshell.
There's going to have to be some changes in a lot of school districts because they just haven't got the funding anymore to handle the programs you need to get into college.
This is no different than Chautauqua Central and Mayville Central years ago when they merged. It's the same idea. It's something has to be done, and the options, Ripley's tried everything, and now I got to give them credit. The people are stepping up and saying this is what we want, and they're sending a message loud and clear to the board.
Yeah, well, Westfield and Brockton are talking about it.
It's going on all the time. You'd be surprised. Okay, so that sort of is where things are at, and I applaud their efforts, and I hope they're successful because it's our future, it's their future, and it's not fair for kids going to school when they don't have the same opportunities as the kid just down the street. Okay, now just before I go, because I know my time's limited here, I want to start something today for the first time. Officially, I'm going to induct a second person into Doc's Wall of Shame.
Go.
The first one was Rush Limbaugh, as you know, and we got a little static from one of our viewers on that. I still stand behind my opinion.
He said some nasty things about a young lady.
About women in general.
Yeah, right.
All right. And, I don't usually watch a lot of that convention stuff on TV, but I saw a clip the other day on TV from that. And, humor is one thing. You want vulgarity and humor, go to a comedy club because that's accepted, right?
Right.
It's the protocol. If you don't want to hear that, don't go to a comedy club. Clint Eastwood, you are my new inductee. Shame on you. I always respected the guy as an actor. The tough guy and the do right and the all-American guy. That was poor taste, and to bring down the whole audience to the level that you did, that's uncalled for. Here, and I don't care who you are, Republican, Democrat, or whatever, yellow, green, or whatever. We're all saying the same thing. Up with America. Let's be proud of our country. And here you're pulling down the presidency in the office. Shame on you. You're now my number 2 inductee.
There you
Back to
go.
Reed.
Thank you. As I said, he shoots from the hip. Clint Eastwood. Okay, we got a guy here who's been here before, and he's used to the fact that we go on and on and on and take all his time up. He's just a superstar that we put in the paper is going to be on the show, but he doesn't get any time, but we'll give him some time now. This is Dr. Earl Freling. He is a chiropractic doctor in Ripley, New York, and he's here to answer your questions. You can call in if you have some sort of a backache or a bone problem, and he will diagnose it over the telephone, and he will give you a prescription immediately. And if you believe that, I have a nice little bridge for you down in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, so first of all, Earl, where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Ripley. I was born and raised, and went to school K through 12 there, and from there I went to Fredonia State. And after graduating from Fredonia State, I went to the National College of Chiropractic outside of Chicago. And came back here in 1986, and I opened up a private practice right here in Mayville. I was here for the first 24 years. And 2 years ago, I relocated my office to my hometown of Ripley, where I also reside. And it's been going very well there. I'm supposed to be kind of semi-retired. I'm working half the number of hours that I used to, but I'm seeing just as many people, so actually I'm twice as busy.
Okay, sounds great. Who does your hair?
Unfortunately, me in the morning.
That's a non sequitur. Okay, so what do you have to do to become a doctor of chiropractic medicine?
Well, in New York State, and it still stands to be the same case, when I graduated, before I could go to chiropractic school, I had to have a Bachelor of Science with all the prerequisite courses, mostly in chemistry, mathematics, biology, all those fun things. And
anatomy, maybe?
Oh yeah, well, a little bit of anatomy, but I had a Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology with a concentration in chemistry before I went to National College of Chiropractic. And while I was at the National College of Chiropractic, I earned a second degree in human biology in 1984.
How long did that take now? Is that another couple of years?
Yes, it was another 2 years for that, and then it was another additional 2 years, including my internship, to attain my doctorate.
So actually, you've got 8 years packed away of college, right?
Yes.
And before you start cracking the bones.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a very intense curriculum, 5,000 hours of study.
Wow.
And internship.
Okay, now, chiropractic medicine, I admit I'm fairly ignorant on it. I've heard tell that it can certainly help improve back problems. It can improve pain in various bones and so forth. Well, how do you go about doing that? What do you do?
Well, basically what we're doing is reintroducing motion into areas of the spine, restoring normal biomechanical function of problematic areas we call subluxations. Subluxations refer to areas between adjacent vertebral segments where there's a biomechanical dysfunction and resultant irritation or compromise of nerve flow. All your tissues and organ systems of the body are supplied by nerves, and it stands to reason that if any nerve is impinged or irritated, that the organs and organ systems or even muscles that are supplied by those various nerves that emerge from the spine become affected or are more prone to disease processes. It's not just a matter of someone having a problem with sciatica or low back pain, but eventually this can overflow into the organs and organ systems. I see a multitude of problems that long-standing conditions will result in other problems in the body. So by alleviating the pressures on these nerves, we can restore normal nerve function and essentially achieve very good health in the individual from a preventative maintenance standpoint. In particular, one of the biggest problems I see amongst our seniors is that of spinal degeneration, spinal stenosis, and this is mostly a result of arthritic changes. But what a lot of people do not realize is that those arthritic changes are not only the result of long-term effects of gravity, but also malnutrition. We see a lot of malnutrition. People who don't get enough calcium in their diet at an earlier age are more prone to osteoporosis and resultant degenerative changes in the spine. Something that is very important, especially after the age of menopause in females, which is about 51 years of age, and men actually go through a similar change with the decrease in androgen hormones in the age of 70 as they start to lose bone density. You hear people having osteoporosis.
Especially ladies. Apparently
Yes.
it affects the female
Oh, yes.
more than it does
Yes.
the male for some reason.
Yes, because they start going through that process at an earlier age. If they've had children, numerous children in particular, they lose bone density from that. So the spine starts to degenerate. You will actually lose a couple inches of your height throughout your life. Even when you have 33 vertebrae and you lose even let's say a 32nd of an inch, you've lost an inch of height.
Yeah, my
Throughout your
grandpa
life.
used to say, "I'm not stupid, I'm just bent over," you know.
That will
It
happen.
causes a lot of elderly
Yes, it
people
does.
are bent
Yes.
because of this.
And what happens is from that degeneration, the vertebral bodies, which are the major supportive element of the spine, start to actually wedge forward. So that's why you see a lot of women in particular who become very bent forward, or what we call hyperkyphotic. That compromises a lot of problems with even with breathing, decreasing the inspiratory volume of the lungs. As a result of that, they have to tip their head back further to look straight ahead. The brain likes to see things straight on and level. But when you lose height in that fashion, you start to get that sort of condition. In addition to that, with the loss of the disc height itself between the vertebral bodies, you all of a sudden start to compromise the opening where the nerves emerge from the spinal cord, which can cause pressure and irritation of those nerves. So you see a lot of associated symptoms and problems with other organ systems as a result of this change.
And this is just a normal aging process.
Yes.
The back
Yes.
begins to skid around and slide, and
Yep.
you wind
All
up
kinds of things.
with all kinds of problems,
Right.
pinching nerves
Yes.
and being
And that's-
bent over. If you see somebody
Certainly.
senior walking
Certainly.
way bent over, I'm one of them. They can tell me coming from a mile back, because I'm starting to bend over.
Well, there's always hope for that, but what I recommend for a lot of people, and especially in this day and age, as you cited earlier, with the changes in insurance policies and Medicare, it's a good time to be taking care of oneself. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people, and it's part of our culture, that we feel we have to retire and do nothing when we're in our 50s, or even making it across the border to collecting Social Security. The main thing is to remain active. You have to remain active.
Physically.
Yes,
and,
you have to
as
stimulate.
well as mentally.
You have to stimulate those bones and joints. If you do not, they're going to seize up, just like a piece of farm equipment that you leave laying out in the field.
Yeah, well, a lot of seniors start out. I used to run about 5 miles, and then I dropped it to 2, and then I started jogging, and now at the age of 73, I walk, but I try to walk a mile every day anyway.
That's good.
Which,
That's good.
That keeps you cranking a
Yes,
little
it
bit,
does.
right?
It's good. It's essential to get out there and stimulate those bones and the joints. I see a lot of people who develop degenerative hips in the process, and it's not because that hip is being overused. The most used joint in the body is the jaw, and it is actually the least to develop arthritis.
How about the knee, too?
Oh, the knees wear out.
Oh, they're a rough
Yes,
one.
yes, they are. But a lot of that too is a matter of nutrition. When people don't get enough calcium or magnesium in their diet, it's stimulating the bones through exercise helps to make the body lay down more bony tissue and maintain that bone density. And even in the wake of the lack of hormones that normally cause the bone producing cells to lay down that bony matrix.
That calcium is a double-edged sword. One of my friends tells me that if you drink a lot of milk past the age of 30, you're going to develop arthritis and the deposits on your bones, which are going to cause you pain.
Unfortunately, milk is not a very good source of calcium. Right. Milk is attached to a phosphate ion, which is very strongly bound.
And everybody swears it's milk. You got to drink milk.
It is not readily absorbed into the system. Another thing that is a problem with that is that with your fat-reduced milks, the fat binds the calcium. So when you remove the fat from the milk, fat-free milk or 2% or 1% milk or skim milk, you've taken all the goodness out of the product, in addition to all the other nice things they have in milk, such as growth hormone and God only knows what else is in the environment.
The cows have been eating, right?
Tetracycline.
Or smoking, whatever they do.
Smoking, radioactive isotopes, whatever. So I recommend when people are looking for a good calcium supplement that perhaps they should look more towards calcium citrate, for instance, which is much more readily absorbed into the body.
Calcium citrate. Now, is that a pill or whatever?
You can get that in a citrate. Some of there are some products on the market that are calcium fortified orange juices. They contain as much calcium per volume as milk, but it's a lot more readily absorbed into the system. But more importantly, as you grow older, it's important for the individual to increase the amount of magnesium in their system. You should be getting half as much magnesium as you are calcium. Magnesium is much more readily absorbed into the bony matrix at an older age.
It helps build bone, right?
Yes.
It'll keep maintaining it anyway.
Yes, it will. And you need that because your body will not absorb as much calcium due to the lack of hormones. Estrogen in females and testosterone in males after the age of 70 greatly decreases. Yeah. So you need to get half as much magnesium as you get calcium. And generally, you should be getting between 1,000 and 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day, which means that you should also be getting between 500 and 600 milligrams of magnesium.
That sounds like a lot of magnesium.
Yes, it is.
Where do you get magnesium? I know if you go over to the chalkboard and start eating the chalk, you got calcium.
Well, that might help a little bit. I've heard of a few teachers doing that over the years. But
where do you get magnesium?
Magnesium you can find in a lot of your green vegetables, things that are
spinach.
Spinach will have some, but you'd probably have to eat half a ton of it to get what you need.
Okay, so you're not going to do that.
No, but as a general rule, our soils have been depleted to the point where we do not get the minerals and vitamins from our foods, especially with some of the way the foods are processed unless they're organically grown. But you can supplement going to a good source of vitamin supplement at a reputable store. Basically, it's a matter of you get what you pay for. A lot of times you'll have to pay a lot of money to get a good product. A lot of other products, I won't mention any particular names, but you can probably go on Consumer Reports or on the internet and find out which vitamin supplement companies offer the best product.
I'm glad you didn't mention any names. Yeah. Their lawyers are watching right now.
I'm sure.
Waiting.
But you have to, a lot of vitamins are just not absorbed into the system, and that is the biggest problem.
So actually, the natural food is the best way, but if you can't get it, you got to go to the vitamins.
You got to go to the supplementation because it's just not available in the foods anymore like it used to be. A lot of other products that we eat have too many preservatives, too many hormones, too many antibiotics. These things all go into the environment. They do not break down. They are reabsorbed by plants and animals that we eat, and there's a process known as bioconcentration, where an animal or plant will actually concentrate those compounds up to 800 times what they are in the environment. And then we reabsorb that into our system, and then we have another problem. So we have conditions emerging in our society that we've never seen before. We have bacteria that are resistant to modern antibiotics.
Alzheimer's. It's increasing. We've got over 6 million people with it now, and it's moving fast.
And a lot of it is dietary. There was, years ago, there was a study done about concentrations of aluminum. And aluminum was found in Alzheimer's patients. Well, aluminum is in a lot of things.
It's endemic everywhere. All your pots, your pans.
Used to be, and the generations that are in their 80s and 90s now grew up cooking on aluminum cookware. Everything was aluminum.
Aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil.
Yes, and so for that reason, I myself cook on either in glass or stainless steel, and you don't get that kind of thing being absorbed.
There you go. We got a phone call. Somebody wants to ask you a question. Good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, and good morning to your guest.
Thank you.
Dr. Freling, so many of us watch TV every day, and there's all kinds of advertisements for health supplements and enhancements and so forth. Are these legitimate? Should we be talking to a doctor first? What advice can you give us?
Well, first of all, it depends on which doctor you're talking to. A lot of doctors are not necessarily trained in nutrition. It would probably help to talk to a nutritionist per se, or most chiropractors. I myself have over 600 hours in nutrition courses, and that includes continuing education, which we're required to take. And that's probably your best way to go. But there are a lot of gimmicks out there, whether it's for weight loss or anything that makes promises, whether it's a fad diet or a diet pill or nutritional supplement that makes any kind of guarantee, I would be very leery of. So yes, you're probably best off to consult either a doctor who is knowledgeable in such things, such as a chiropractor, or even a nutritionist per se.
Or Dr. Bob Barnes. You probably bumped into him at some point or the other. Yes. He says the same thing. He says outrageous, the garbage we're putting into our bodies.
Oh, it's terrible.
With obesity being such a problem in our country, is there anything that you can recommend to seniors?
Well, basically with obesity, it's a matter of increasing output and decreasing input. People, as a general rule in America, need to get more exercise. I hate to say this, but whenever I go to the store and I see people running around in these little electric scooters, 95% of them are way overweight, and they're just basically contributing to their own demise. There again, there's a lot of problems with our food chain. I've even recently heard of the problem with belly fat being attributed to not just hormones that are in our food chain, such as the bovine growth hormone.
Not just beer, of course.
No beer.
The beer belly.
Yeah, beer wouldn't help, but also newer hybrid forms of wheat, for instance. Supposedly, the carbohydrates from that wheat tend to be stored away as fat. Another factor is that of refined sugar. In the year 1900, the average American consumed 7 pounds of sugar per year. By the year 2000, that number was up to 125 pounds of refined sugar.
Good Lord.
Per American.
And they tell you that these are the white poisons: flour, sugar, and salt.
It's in everything.
Flour, sugar, and salt,
yes,
everywhere.
It's in everything. But by eliminating these products, curbing your intake of dairy products that contain a lot of these hormones and chemicals, increasing exercise, eating more fruits and vegetables, staying away from some of your heavier meats, especially fatty foods. That's your best recipe for losing weight. Avoid fad diets, avoid diet pills. You need to basically just keep moving, stimulate those bones, keep your circulation going. Aerobic type of exercise, walking is excellent for seniors. They need to get out, get a little sunshine. Sunshine is essential for stimulating the vitamin D in your skin, which will help promote the bone deposition in the body.
Don't do backflips or anything, though.
No.
I found out I can't even do a cartwheel anymore. Incidentally, I did have a question to ask you. This is cat food.
Yes.
And now that's what seniors ate during the Great Depression.
Okay.
They didn't have any money. More and more seniors are out of money and can't buy food. But cat food is still fairly substantial to eat, and it's properly prepared. I'm going to write a book on this.
Okay, there you go.
Recipe book.
Sounds like a winner.
That's what they're going to be eating and living
Yes.
in their children's basement.
Well, I'm afraid
Now,
a lot
how
of
about
us
the
will be.
nutrition and this kind of stuff? What do you think?
Well, it's probably more balanced than a lot of the food that we eat.
You think
Get
so?
right down to it.
Tuna, fish,
Yes,
cat food probably
certainly
is,
a lot of protein in there, and
Uh-huh.
I think sometimes they're more stringent about what we feed our pets than what we feed ourselves. I know I have 2 German Shepherds at home.
The healthier you are.
Well, I certainly spend more money on them than I do myself.
Steak, you can't give them steak every night, though.
No.
We're talking to Dr. Earl Freling, and he is, do I pronounce that right?
Correct, Freling,
Okay.
yes.
Freling, who is a doctor of chiropractic medicine. He practices currently in Ripley. You say you're doing half-time. My grandfather was a podiatrist, and when he got older, he lost his only son, my dad, who was only 40, and then his wife died of heartbreak 3 years later, and he said, well, I don't have anything particular to worry about. He was an old Irisher, and he drank a lot. And so he started drinking much more heavily, and he decided to close his office because the drinking was interfering with his work. And there was such a hue and cry. He said, okay, I'll cut it down. 9 to 12, I'll do the office, and then after that, it's my time.
There you go.
And he drank along like that, and his doctor, who was Herbie, was Van Laughlin in Westfield.
Correct.
He went to Van. Van said, you know, Clem, it's the drinking. It's going to kill you. You gotta lay back. Well, he kept right on drinking, and then Van died, and his son Herbie took over the practice, and Grandpa went over to Herbie when he was, I guess, in the mid-'80s or whatever, and Herb said, you know, Clem, you remember what Van used to tell you? You got to stop the drinking. It's going to kill you. And they were right. At 95, he died of it.
Well, hey,
Got to be careful.
we just don't know. I've seen people who would smoke 3 packs of filterless cigarettes a day and drink just as much and live to be in their 90s. And I've seen other people that inhaled secondary smoke and died of cancer in their 40s.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of it's genetic, a lot of it's environmental. We just don't know sometimes what's going to happen to us, especially as we get a little bit older. I mean,
Well, you had mentioned the normal flow of, I guess, electricity or whatever
Nerve-
in the
nerve flow,
body.
yes.
It kind of reminds me of that the fad that passed not too long ago, Reiki, where they would actually never
Yes.
even touch you.
Right.
All they had to do was work on over your head and on your nerve impulses that are being shot out of the body.
Energy fields.
Energy fields.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes, the entire body is you can look at it as a circuit board. You know, if you look at other forms of medicine, Oriental medicine in particular, they describe it in terms of meridians, where certain organ systems have their own channels throughout the body, which they can insert needles and redirect that flow, or open up channels that have been blocked to various organs. Chiropractic is a little more, how should I say, it's more physical in that regard, that we're doing more direct physical reallocation of that energy by relieving
Okay.
blockages.
Blockages. I'll
Yes,
talk about that in a moment.
And you can stimulate basically the entire body. I myself have received a chiropractic adjustment at least every other week for
You
the
do it
last
yourself, do you?
31 years. Oh no, I have friends and
You
colleagues
swap
that I've gone
off a
to.
little
Oh
cracking?
yes, yes.
You got a couple of callers. You want to take a call?
Sure.
Hey, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, good morning, Reed. Good morning, Earl. Earl, it's great you're on the show.
Uh-huh.
It's good to be here.
This is, I recognize her sweet voice, the nicest lady I've ever met. And she has a wonderful husband named Doug. Maybe you might know. They live in Chautauqua.
Okay.
Linda Spalding.
Okay.
Yes.
You're on, Linda.
This is Linda. Well, I just wanted to say that it's great that you're on the show, and I know that seniors need services like this. I did want to mention that the Office for the Aging has all kinds of services for our seniors in the community, and that I have the Senior Employment Program, and the number to call in Mayville is 753-4471, and toll-free from Dunkirk, Fredonia, 363-4471.
Okay, do you have a chiropractor on duty over there?
No.
Oh, you're not yet, huh? Okay.
No.
I still do house calls.
So that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah. So have a great week and a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
You too. Thank
Well,
you.
our best to Doug. I hope he's doing well.
Well, thank you. Yes, he is.
He had some surgery not too long ago, and maybe a chiropractor would be able to help him out too.
Maybe.
Okay, well, thank you,
Okay.
and have
thank
a good
you.
day. And my best to you, to Doug, and to the two doggies. You have two.
Oh, all right. Well, the doggies are becoming very mature, and they're getting past their puppyhood days. So
No more paper.
no more paper. They're not.
Okay.
They're being very serene.
Terrific. Well, God bless you. Thanks again for calling in.
All right, and thank you. Have a great week.
You were talking about the energy fields. Now, one of the oldest approaches to this is yoga. The chakras, they contend that the different positions and the almost bone-cracking positions, I don't know what they get into.
It's essential that people stretch. That's something that's very important for seniors. And you wouldn't necessarily have to become a yogini or contortionist to benefit from that. But stretching is very important as you grow older. And stretching positions need to be held for a longer sustained time as you grow older. Our ligaments start to contract, and that's part of the loss of the mineral in our diet, as well as some of the other constituents of our supportive tissues, such as glucosamine and chondroitin sulfate, which is the major ground substance of your cartilage and ligamentous tissues. Stretching is excellent. Stretching is passive as far as stretching muscles, improving your blood flow to the various tissues. I think that it's a good way to start out a morning, is to start with a regimen of stretches. It doesn't have to be anything, any kind of commando stretches or anything like that, but stretching is essential. You're less apt to injure tissues throughout the day if you preload your muscles and ligaments by some gentle stretching. I quite often prescribe stretching exercises in my office for particularly the low back, problems with low back. It basically helps get things moving. The stretching also helps as far as the core muscles and getting your abdominal intestinal tract moving.
And then you get better. You get better digestion.
Yes, you will.
From stretching.
Yes, you will.
Not stretching the jaw. You eat too much.
Yeah, that's what I say.
That's
the biggest. That's the most commonly used joint in the body, and some of us more than others.
Yes, especially people talk a lot like me. Okay, Dr. Earl Freling talking to us about chiropractic medicine. I had a question I wanted to ask you about. It's sort of off the subject a little bit, but not really. I have a friend who suffers from headaches. He goes to the chiropractor.
Oh, yes.
How can a chiropractor help a headache?
Headaches come from a variety of sources. We have migraine headaches, which are very common, which is basically a reaction to toxins in the body, whether they're stress toxins or things we're allergic to. We have sinus headaches, which are quite prevalent right now. We've had very high mold and pollen count all summer and spring. This fall is going to be very bad with molds in particular. Tension headaches. We are very overstimulated in this society from media and just overpopulation. And so people can have a variety or even combination of headaches, whether it's sinus, migraine, cluster, or tension headaches. There's nothing that says you can't have a combination of any one of those at any given time.
There's no such thing as just a headache. It could be almost anything,
can
right?
be
It's kind of like Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it could be. It's a multifaceted problem. There again, drinking plenty of water, flushing the toxins out of your system, eating healthy, avoiding certain products that might affect those headaches, whether it's preservatives in meats, pepperoni, for instance, or cheeses, processed foods, bacon. Yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Monosodium glutamate is a very big problem, and if you start reading labels, you will see that a lot of your canned foods contain MSG, monosodium glutamate, and that is a very big problem, especially with migraine headaches.
In Chinese restaurants.
Oh yes, yes.
Well, it enhances the flavor, they say.
Yeah, well, it
Like
can,
salt.
Yes, certainly, and it's something you really don't need in your system. But chiropractically, relaxing the muscles and adjusting the vertebrae around the skull and the cervical spine helps to relieve pressure on nerves that will cause headaches. Some techniques that I do, I work the muscles of the jaw, temporomandibular joint syndrome, or TMJ syndrome, which is very common.
That's
That kind of
what is that now?
TMJ syndrome. It's muscles of the jaw go into a spasm or even an imbalance in the movement of the jaw can set up a neurological response that can precipitate headaches.
Yeah. So many things can. Even,
certainly.
Especially if you have an ex-spouse who's hassling you.
Yes, yes.
Tension head.
That will definitely do it. I've read about that. But,
well, there is a lot of tension in our
certainly.
society, and
We have way too
99%
much.
of what people worry about never really happens.
That's right.
But they'll sit and fret all night long, develop a huge
Exactly.
headache, and go to the chiropractor
yeah.
when there's nothing to worry about,
That's
really.
right. That's right. Or take drugs.
Yeah.
And that's a very large problem in our country right now, too. The number 2 problem with drug addiction in this country is that of prescription painkillers.
It's not dope, not the stuff they sell on the street.
No, it is not.
It's just a regular thing the doctor gives
yes,
you.
and number 1 is still alcohol.
That's a drug.
Yeah, it is a drug. Yes.
They tried to outlaw it, didn't work.
Yeah,
very
it didn't
well.
work.
And they tried to outlaw marijuana. It hasn't worked. It
No,
just
no.
created havoc. And same with all the other drugs.
Sure.
I'm just concerned that the federal government doesn't do something about this on the positive side.
Well, maybe eventually they will.
I think they might.
Yeah.
But good Lord.
But it's definitely a big problem.
And that causes a lot of problems. Now, can you alleviate the aggravation and the pain of drugs over usage of drugs?
Certainly. By reducing the pressure on the nerves, improving blood flow, decreasing inflammation through chiropractic adjustment and massage therapy, other physiological modalities. I use electricity, sine wave, interferential therapy, and ultrasound in my office to sometimes reduce muscle spasm before I adjust. Moist heat is very good for chronic pain. For acute pain, I quite often recommend ice.
Cold or heat?
Cold, yes.
Or
Certainly.
both?
Certainly.
Both?
Certainly.
I just thought, really, you have many different problems that do come from drugs, though. We're
Certainly.
back into the drug scene here.
Yes.
And people that may think they're helping themselves
Right.
apparently are not.
Right, and over the years, you've seen where we're reintroducing a new, improved, extra strength formula of this painkiller and that painkiller. A few years ago, there again, without mentioning a product name, there was a commercial that was out saying, "I haven't got time for the pain." Well, I hate to tell you, but we do have time for the pain. The pain is there for a reason. It's there to tell you that something is wrong. And a lot of people that will mask that pain by taking analgesic drugs and then go out and work or exercise, all of a sudden end up doing more damage and tearing up the tissues.
Drop dead sometimes.
Yes, and some of these NSAID-type pain relievers have also been proven to cause degeneration of the supportive elements and connective tissues in the body, which worsens the condition.
So, as well as massage, incidentally, you did mention the massage. There is a
Yes.
number of therapeutic
Oh, yes.
massage. What's the difference between that and a chiropractor?
Well, basically, massage therapists are concentrating on the muscles and supportive elements of the body. There are different types of massage therapists. I refer to a number of massage therapists, all according to what someone needs. For instance, someone who has very deep-seated, long-standing myofascial pain syndrome.
What's myofascial?
Oh, that's a long-standing inflammation of the muscle with resultant laying down of scar tissue. The body can no longer recognize that as just a site of ouch, but rather recognizes it as a site of damage. So the body starts sending in fibrocytic scar-forming tissues that will actually wall off that area, and the person ends up with almost like a knot or a trigger point in that muscle. For a person like that, I would recommend myofascial release, which is a very aggressive and deep type of massage where they will actually work that out. Otherwise, with someone who just needs some relaxation and increased blood flow, I might refer them to a massage therapist that will do a more general, full-body Swedish-type massage, maybe with just a little bit of trigger point therapy.
So it sounds to me like the difference might center around the bones.
Right.
You would be working more on the bones
Correct.
and the interior, and
Correct.
the massage therapist is not going to
Yes.
get into that. He
No.
just takes care of the muscle.
But
right?
it's important to address all aspects of any condition. Quite often, from long-standing nerve root impingement, I'll see people develop secondary trigger points.
What are those?
Trigger points are those focal points where there's been the scar tissue forming around an area of inflammation, mostly lactic acid that builds up in the muscle tissue from its overactivity in muscle metabolism. And that's why it's essential, too, to drink a lot of water to flush
Back
these.
to the milk, yeah, lactic acid is
Yep.
full of it, or milk's full of it.
Oh, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
So that and chemicals and everything. Antioxidants are very important to help neutralize these toxins in the body. Something that's very essential for proper nerve function are your B vitamins, and also maintaining your cell walls, what they call permeability. They have found the use of your omega-3 and omega-5 fish oils, for instance, is very essential for brain function, nerve function. You can quiet the inflammatory response just by taking these products.
Castor oil, like the old good old days, right?
Years ago,
You choke down some every day, you know?
Old-fashioned remedy was cod liver oil.
Yeah.
For arthritis, it does work. It's full of vitamin A and vitamin D.
How about E? You didn't mention E. Everybody seems to think it's a miraculous vitamin. Vitamin E?
Vitamin E?
Yeah.
Vitamin E is a good vitamin.
It is.
It's also known as alpha tocopherol. Generally, they've found it very essential for preventing fibrocytic breast disease. You usually have to take a considerable amount, usually between 1,000 and 1,200
Kind of a megadose. right?
international units to get that physiologic pharmaceutical effect from it. But as a general rule, you don't need to take that much. If you eat the right types of foods and oils, avoiding your polysaturated oils such as your corn oils. Corn oil is a big problem. It has a lower melting point than most of your fats.
How about
and
olive oil?
oils? Olive oil is excellent.
It is good.
Flaxseed oil is excellent. Extra virgin olive oil, I use it on everything. I don't even use butter anymore for the most part. I will actually use olive oil.
Like the Romans. That's
Certainly.
They never had butter. They used
Yes,
olive oil.
and years ago, having a bottle of vinegar on the table is excellent.
Especially when you have the French fries.
Yes, a little apple cider vinegar or balsamic vinegar is excellent. I wouldn't necessarily recommend white vinegar. That's a little
Earl,
harsh.
we should go on here and do another program.
Yeah,
we're
that would
not
be
even started.
wonderful.
But we just got that signal. We're out of here.
Okay, well that's
I want to
great.
give you 30 seconds uninterrupted to sort of close off. This
Okay.
is your last few seconds.
Okay, I'd just like to thank everybody for being with us today, and I'd like to say hello to my longtime friends, patients, and of course my family, and throughout Chautauqua County, in particular Mayville and Ripley. And I look forward to being back here again, and just make sure that you get out there and take care of yourselves, increase your exercise, watch what you eat, and if you have questions regarding anything I've talked about today, feel perfectly free.
Give them a number they can call you.
Okay, my office in Ripley is 736-6868, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have concerning what we do.
736-6868.
Correct.
Okay, Dr. Earl Freling, thank you for coming, and sorry, last caller.
Thank you.
We won't get you in, but we'll have Dr. Freling in another 20 years for sure.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I want to say thank you to a certain number of wonderful people. Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Sook, and Don Zenz, and not to mention, last but least, Doc Hamels. I want everybody to get out and have a beautiful weekend. It's a long weekend. Labor Day, it's a chance to get together with family and friends, have a picnic, enjoy your life, and make sure you stretch and watch what you're eating, and don't drink too much milk if you're over 30. Thank you again, Dr. Earl Freling. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you